To the Rude Awakening. This came from Ryan. Didn't know if you guys had heard or not, but I know some of your listeners feel everything KCS does is a big old secret. So that's a good tone to start off the note. That makes me want to go, I want to read this now. The Knox County Schools Student Assessment Inventory Committee, it's a big old long word there, will host a community meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd at 6 p.m. at West High School. It's 3300 Sutherland Avenue for those of you playing along at home. To begin to gather input from the community regarding student assessments, the meeting is open to educators, students, parents, and members of the community. The community meeting is part of a broader comprehensive student assessment analysis the school system is conducting, funded by a grant provided by Achieve Inc. Good. Achieve Inc. grants, those are wonderful. Ask Dr. McIntyre about Achieve Inc. grants and how those are doing for him. The Student Assessment Inventory Committee is comprised of teachers, school counselors, and district administrators. The purpose of the comprehensive student assessment analysis is to help address questions and concerns about assessment that have been raised by Knox County community. It was one of the 7 community conversations included in Superintendent Jim McIntyre's 2015 State of the Schools address. Ultimately, the goal of the analysis is to help ensure that all assessments given to students in the Knox County Schools are either required or useful in informing instructional decisions. During this phase of the project, a comprehensive inventory of the assessments administered across the district will be created. Who talks like this? In addition to the community forum, the school district will also collect input from school teachers, leaders, and students through a combination of school meetings, focus groups, individual interviews, and surveys. The June 2nd community meeting will begin with a brief overview, followed by a breakout session where participants can discuss their questions and concerns related to student assessment. Breakout sessions will be divided into specialty populations, such as an English language learners small group, special education small group, and grade level specific small groups. After the breakout sessions, the small groups will summarize their discussions for the broader group. The large group sessions will stream live on knoxschools.org/KCSTV and can be viewed live on Comcast Channel 10 or AT&T U-verse Channel 99. So there you go. Big meeting, June 2nd, Tuesday, 6 p.m., West High School, 3300 Sutherland Avenue. That's all fine, well, and good. And no, I don't think that everything that the KCS does is a big secret, nor do I think, of course I'm not going to speak for all my listeners, but there's a lot of listeners out there who don't think it's a big secret. They just don't like the way it's handled. And this is just an example of this. It sounds great. It sounds like we're going to have a big community meeting. The problem is you get into the, quote, small group breakout sessions. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's a breakout group, workshop, seminar, community juries, roundtable, study circles, contact utilization, opinionaries, decision science, Delphi technique, dialogue facilitation, nominal group processes, open space technology, Samoan circles, SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, synetics, or value analysis. Doesn't matter what you call them. They're all the same thing. Okay? You take a large group, you break it down into small groups, and you break those small groups down into individual pinpoint groups. It's much easier in these smaller individual pinpoint groups to then take that person, whoever's facilitating that group, and go, okay, here's your various topics. Here's the discussion points we will talk about. It's a whole lot easier to go ahead and take these small groups and lead them wherever you want to go. And in turn, while you're having your small group discussion, to have them feel like, well, they've put into this group and they've decided this all together as a small group. It's much easier to take that big group, break it down into small groups, break those down into smaller groups, basically with whatever point you want to get them to go to, and get them as a small group to go to that point or somewhere near that point. You then bring it all back together and say, hey, here's what we discussed in our small group. These people will sit there and go, yeah, we discussed that, and that was my thought. That may not even be your thought. You'll have one or two people in that group that go, no, I don't agree with this. But as a whole, that small group goes, oh, no, we all agreed on this. And mob mentality, they all go, okay, yeah, we all agreed on this. You all come back together and say, look, this is what we all agreed on. We're all happy because we all sat and discussed it. Didn't even realize that the guy or gal that was facilitating our group led us into whatever direction we wanted to go to. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just easy group science there.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it all over the place, and it's done all over the place. You want to take a large group, break it down into small groups, break that group into even smaller groups. Say, okay, here, now when you're leading this group, this is where we want you to end up. And you do it simply. It's not even advanced psychology. You break it down to how you ask the questions, which questions you ask, which options for answers you give them. And you can lead any group anywhere you want. You know? You learn the same thing when you learn basic card skills, when you learn basic close-up magic card skills. It's called pushing a card. Here, pick a card, any card, and you push the card toward them that you want them to pick. It's not hard. So, I mean, it's great they're having the meeting. The problem is if it was an actual open meeting where people discussed what was going on, that'd be one thing. But there's going to be people put in charge of, here, this person, this group, you go over here with this person, this group go, and I guarantee you those people that are going to be leading the groups have already been told, look, here's what we want to get to. Just point your group here. Am I off base, Trey?
Well, I don't know what the groups, I don't know that I would say they have this idea, they've been told where they want to go. I think they have an idea what they'd like to see out of them. And whether or not dissenting opinions will be represented when that small group makes its presentation to the larger group, that I think is an important question, because
Sure.
that I don't know.
It'll be interesting. Because the thing is historically we've heard from people who've gone to several of these different Delphi technique and these small group breakout sessions, SWAT, whatever you want to call them. There's different names for them. They're all the same thing. And we've heard this, you don't really hear a lot of dissenting opinions. And for the most part, everybody comes up with around the same idea. And it's amazing. How can you do that? You have a group of 100 people, and they all break into, 20 groups of 5. And out of those 20 groups, most of them all come up with the same conclusion. And they all feel like they participated. They all feel like they've got in there. But the thing is they're kind of led to, hey, this is the person leading the group. They know where they're supposed to go. They know what they're supposed to get out of it. And you can take a group of 5 people, a little bit of correct knowledge of what questions to ask, how to ask them, how to pose them. You can get them where you want to go. It's not that hard. And the people in that group go, oh, we gave our opinions. We thought we came up. This is what we came up to together as a group. Is that right? It's like counting cards in Vegas. Is it really cheating? Not really, but kind of, yeah. Is it really an open and honest discussion? Kind of. It's as open and honest as you can get up until the point where you actually have the conclusion made. Really quickly, the phone, 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. We said that to tell you about another incident coming up, and we'll tell you that here in just a moment, though. Blue wants to weigh in on Delphi technique. Blue, good morning. You're on the Rude Awakening.
Good morning.
Hi.
Being the queen of the Delphi experience over the Ridgetop Hilltop experience, little techniques that I've learned how to beat them at their own game. You need to network with people that are in the audience and at the general. You need to find out exactly where they stand, and that's where those people migrate to when they're calling for, you go to this special group, that special group, so on and so forth, or whatever round table. Because at every single one that we went to, it was a round table. We dominated when we actually got together, and we shut them down to the point that even in Union County, at the Union County High School, they kicked my father out first, and then the police officer picked me up and took me outside. Why? Because I asked one simple question. Union County doesn't need bike lanes. They need tractor lanes.
Okay.
But it was enough to get their attention.
Yeah.
But they will see that there's security at these.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
But you have to stand your ground, and you have to dominate the table. You cannot allow the facilitator to dominate the table. You take over the table. But make sure that you're aligned with people that understand that this is the point that you're trying to get across.
There you go. And there's some tips there from Blue for surviving a Delphi technique meeting. Really quickly, this email came in. And we got Lauren Hobson on the phone with us this morning. We'll go ahead and let her tell you about it. The situation is a bit troubling, but we've got on the phone with us Lauren Hobson. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, guys. Before I talk to you about this situation, I did want to add something about this testing assessment inventory meeting they're going to do. There's a couple things the public needs to know. I know you alluded to it earlier about Achieve Inc. Gave the grant to do this. Well, Achieve Inc. is one of the primary people behind Common Core, of which our governor is on the board, so you can kind of already make some assumptions about where they're going to try to lead you. The second thing is the person that's in charge of leading these is Christy Hindler, who is our latest Broad Academy intern.
Wow.
So they've got their agenda in there as well, too. You know, when you have someone who comes from an organization whose goal is to work on privatizing education and destroying our public schools, and you allow them to be in charge of these community groups, that's not really a good thing. So I just wanted everybody to know that.
I'm wondering if the facilitators in the small groups will be people either from Achieve or from Broad, or people either one of those groups picked out to.
It'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
The other thing about this is there's absolutely no reason to do this. The very first teacher advisory group meeting that met a year and a half ago, of which I was a part, the thing that we did, Lynn Fugate actually led us to do this, was to break up into grade levels, write down every assessment we give, and see which ones we needed and which ones we didn't. So we broke up into these groups, wrote down every assessment we gave, struck out about 80% of them, and told the superintendent, this is what we need. It was already done a year and a half ago with teachers' input. There's no reason to do this. This is a waste of time. This is a waste of whatever money's going into it. There may be a grant, but as we've learned with grants that Knox County Schools gets, especially when they involve the Broad Academy, there's always other money on top of it that ends up getting spent.
Sure.
You know, and I'm sure all that information was, you know, pretty summarily trashed and, you know, never gone back to again.
Sure.
So this is yet another smokescreen, much like Balanced Calendar. It's a smokescreen to take our attention off things that really need to happen, which kind of leads us to the next thing.
Okay.
Got a lot of phone calls and emails this last week from teachers who are being non-renewed from Knox County.
Non-renewed, basically. You
speak for fired.
Yeah, you basically finish the school year, and they say, "Okay, thanks, that was fun, and we hope you find something next year."
It's one of those things where they just have a really hard time finding a balance. A part of the problem a couple years ago is that they would tell teachers about this, say, in March, and then they're kind of working out the last 2 months of their contract, knowing that they're not going to be rehired. I'm not sure that sets up a good situation for motivation and the like. And so now what's happening with a lot of them is they're waiting to the very last day of school. The person I emailed you about, very last day of school, she goes into the talk to the principal about a different matter, and is told, oh, by the way, you're going to be non-renewed and you have to have your stuff out by this afternoon. She lives in a very small apartment. She doesn't have a place to put all of her classroom stuff, and she has a couple hours to get it out. And so one of the things that's being told, I talked to one of the school board members the other night, Doug Harris, about this, that the tenured teachers that are being let go, a lot of them are being told, you don't meet the vision of our school. Well, there's no way to really argue against that, especially if they are members of KCEA. There's no legal way to fight that, to prove it or disprove it. So that's what they're being told, and I told Mr. Harris that.
Are the visions of the school throughout the schools throughout Knox County different with each school?
Well, nobody knows because nobody's being specific about it. That's the point.
Shouldn't the vision of any school anywhere be the fact that your vision is that you want to educate children as best as possible?
One would think. And the thing is, some of these teachers that are being non-renewed, there may be every reason in the world for them to be let go.
Uh-huh.
And some of these teachers, there may not be. But with an answer like that, there's no way to prove or disprove it. So it really takes the Knox County Education Association out of the equation
Sure.
because there's nothing they can do to fight that.
Well, you can just lump them all together. That way you can get rid of some of the bad ones and you get with some of the good ones, and that way they're all let go at the exact same time. For
Well,
the exact
and
same
what
reason.
also happens, too, if you take third and fourth year teachers, now in the state of Tennessee, in order to apply for tenure, you have to have 5 years in, and then you have to meet a certain standard for your evaluation scores several years in a row before you can be granted it. And just in case people are confused, all tenure means is due process rights.
Sure.
That means if you're going to fire a teacher, you have to have cause. You have to be able to prove it. The teacher is allowed a hearing and the opportunity for representation. That's all it means.
Yeah.
People who think that tenure is granted automatically and it means a job for life are sorely mistaken.
Yeah, it allows you the opportunity to go ahead and sue if you've been, or have due process if you've been released for whatever reason.
Right. And so non-renewing these third and fourth year teachers before they reach their fifth year mark is going to create a whole class of teachers that never have the opportunity for tenure.
Sure.
And what that also creates is a situation where you have people that are unable to challenge detrimental policies or advocate for their students, which I believe is the situation that happened with a particular teacher this week.
Well, this teacher that you spoke to me about, she's a third-year teacher. She has met classroom evaluation scores every year. They've steadily improved over her 3 years. And, of course, this is dependent on school-wide data. Her testing scores are dependent on school-wide data for children that she doesn't teach. She was non-renewed on the last day. And it also needs to be pointed out, too, that she's a current active member of SPEAK. She was particularly active in speaking out against inappropriate curriculum and testing for her kindergarten students.
Right. Yeah, she was particularly instrumental in ending the SAT-10 test for our K-2 students, which is an incredibly developmentally inappropriate test. And to my knowledge, we're the only group of teachers and parents that basically killed one of these standardized tests in the state of Tennessee. Other school boards or superintendents kind of came to that decision on their own if they decided to stop using SAT-10. But in our county, teachers kind of had to take it upon themselves to make the situation with the SAT-10 known. And luckily at the time we had some school board members that listened and voted to take that test away. And the thing is, she wasn't given a reason. She asked specifically for a reason. Did she need to do something differently? Had she not done something? And she was told by the human resources person that was there with her principal that the principal had declined to disclose that information, and that was her right. And that is true. And the thing is, though, just because you're allowed to do something a certain way does not mean you have to, and that's the right way to treat people. It is absolutely the principal's right not to disclose that information. But when you have a teacher who has good classroom evaluation scores and is loved by her parents and students, why would you not give her that information? If there was indeed some legitimate reason for her to be non-renewed, wouldn't you want her to know that?
Sure. And then, of course, without her having tenure, because she's only been doing this 3 years at this particular school, she has no recourse. That's it. That's the end of the line. There's no other thing she can do. It's pack up your stuff and go, and don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter, being a Knox County Education Association member or not. There's a lot of other things benefits that she gets from that membership. But unfortunately, in this case, there's really nothing that can be done, legally anyway. So hopefully, she's gotten a lot of support of the community, and hopefully we're going to have some people speaking at the next board meeting on her behalf. I don't know if that will change anything. I'm pretty sure she's probably not the only person in the district in this situation. And it sets up, distrust with the system again. It also pits teachers against principals, which if you want to run a school system well, that's the worst thing you can do. Principals and teachers need to be on the same side. They need to be able to trust one another, with their practices and with their feelings about things. And when you set this situation up, that's a way to destroy a school system right there.
Yeah. Let's quit tiptoeing around this whole thing. Do you honestly do you think that she was let go because of her involvement with Speak and because she was kind because she spoke out against the testing and everything?
Well, I don't know what else to think.
Yeah.
When you have someone who, again, has good classroom scores and, fits in well with their school, and you have students and teachers that like her, what other reason would there be? I don't know.
Well, if she doesn't fit in with the school's vision, which apparently, and from everything I hear from you and from a lot of other teachers, apparently the vision for this school and other Knox County schools is to just shut up, don't say anything, and do exactly what we tell you to do.
And she wasn't even given that explanation.
Yeah.
She was just told her principal had elected not to disclose that information. She was given no reason at all.
Wow.
So, I'd like to be able to say, yeah, maybe that's the reason, but I can't prove it.
Unreal.
And nobody can, so everybody's left to speculation, which that doesn't do your school system any good either.
Wow.
Wouldn't you want people to know and say, okay, this is the reason, and you can either stand behind it, or if there's not any evidence to stand on, then you've made the wrong decision. But when you treat people in that manner and you leave it purposely with no explanation, there's nothing left to do but speculate.
And then, so the other thing too, and I want to ask you this: I guess social media is getting flooded this week and last week with TCAP and EOC scores, and apparently there's some teachers saying that they're skeptical that the scores have improved so dramatically, and there's some undercurrent about there might be some falsely inflated scores, because we saw them last year; they were horrible, and in a year's time, suddenly now everything's bright and rosy again.
Well, and there's a catch-22 with that also, because what if, let's just say, teachers have gotten really good at test prep. Let's even say we've done a whole lot of stuff differently, and the kids have learned more.
Okay.
And now our scores are good, and all they've been pushing teachers for the last 10 years is improve your scores. We've got to get better scores. We've got to get better scores. Then the year that seems to have happened, you go, oh, no, wait a second. Something's not right here. Either you believe that you can put these practices in place that will improve these scores, or you don't. You can't have it both ways. Either there is a reason that kids don't score well on these tests, whether it's socioeconomic factors, whether it's the curriculum you're teaching, or you believe that teachers can be so incredible that no matter what group of students they have, they can improve their scores. That is what we've been told, that poverty is not a factor. Home situations are not a factor. Access to materials is not a factor. Where you live is not a factor. But then when you have improvement, like they say you ought to get, then they're telling you, wait a second, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how anybody can put any stock in test scores at this point, whether they're good or bad, because they're messed with after the fact. I mean, this is a test where actually the scores come out, and then the state decides how many people they want to pass, and they set their cut score.
Yeah.
It's not the same every year. It's not like having a test where 70 is always passing. No matter what you do, 70 is passing, 93 is an A.
Yeah.
That's not the way these tests work.
Yeah.
The kids take them, the state looks at the scores and says, we want these many people to pass, we'll set the proficient score right here.
Yeah.
So it's different every year, because this year when we got our cut scores, it didn't tell us proficient, advanced, basic like it usually does.
Sure.
And we were all asking, well, what does this mean? Well, we don't know. In years past, it's been about 85 as proficient, but it could be as low as 83. It might be up to 87.
Well,
I'm playing it.
It's the easiest way to keep people confused. Just keep changing the playing field, and then tell them that it's all level. Lauren Hobson, we appreciate the time this morning, and we'll keep an eye on this for you. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye. Jacob says in the text box, I understand there's a lot of shady stuff going on with the schools, but if I went in a public forum and spoke against my employer, I would expect some consequences and possibly lose my job. Sure, but here's the thing. Hopefully your employer wouldn't treat you like what's going on with teachers and students in the Knox County school system.